You know, and you see someone who's just, wow, incredibly skilled at what they do. Maybe like a barber getting that fade perfect, or a chef plating something that looks like art, or a mechanic figuring out an engine noise just by listening. We see the hands, right? The
Yeah.
physical skill, the finished product. But do we ever really stop and think about what's underneath all that, the invisible stuff that makes them truly great beyond just the doing? So today in the deep dive, that's exactly what we're getting into. This often overlooked idea, the power of theory, that foundational knowledge, the thinking behind the doing, that really turns competence into, well, expertise. And we're drawing from some really sharp insights today. Excerpts from The Silent Work of Theory and Personal Appearance by Rodrick Samuels. He's got a book coming out called The Silent Work.
Right. And our mission here really is to unpack why theory isn't just, ticking a box on a test. It's really the engine that drives trustworthiness. It's about being safe. It's about having intentional, sustainable skill. Honestly, for any hands-on field, personal appearance, cooking, building, whatever theory is what lists the whole industry, we're aiming to uncover why this silent knowing, as Samuels calls it, this deep groundwork, is actually the loudest thing in the room. It's the most important part.
That's such a great way to put it because I think, yeah, a lot of us feel that pull towards the hands-on bit first. And in industries like personal appearance, it's just so easy to fall for I don't know, the feel of the scissors, the look of the style taking shape. It feels immediate. It feels like that's the real work happening right there.
It does, absolutely. It's tangible. But, as the source material really hammers home, behind every masterpiece is a foundation. And that foundation, it's not just about nimble fingers, it's in your mind.
Mm.
That's exactly where theory comes in. And it still matters
Yeah.
hugely. It's the difference between just mimicking actions and truly deeply understanding why you're doing them.
Okay, but that's where I think some people, maybe myself included, sometimes get a bit stuck. Theory can feel like this hurdle, something you just have to get through before you get to the fun stuff, the practical stuff. Why is thinking like that not just wrong, but maybe even limiting or risky?
Well, because theory is essentially what makes you trustworthy. Full stop.
Yeah.
It's that deeper knowledge that guarantees you're working in a way that's safe, skilled, and sustainable, whatever your profession. Think about it, using the personal appearance examples from the source. Theory tells you why different hair types respond the way they do to things like heat or chemicals. Massively important. It's understanding how chemicals interact with the body. That's basic safety, right? Avoiding allergic reactions, chemical burns. It defines what sanitation really means and why it's a non-negotiable. It's not just about looking clean, it's infection control. And crucially, it gives you the knowledge for how to spot skin conditions before a treatment begins, knowing when to stop, when to refer someone. That's professionalism.
Wow. So
Yeah.
yeah, without that theory, you're kind of flying blind, relying on a habit, maybe luck. But with theory, you're making informed decisions. You're intentional. It sounds less like a hurdle and more like the superpower almost.
It really is. And I love this point from the source. You can't break the rules until you understand them. Theory gives you that core understanding of the principles, not just a list of steps to follow. It means that when you act, whether it's, a barber's technique, a chef tweaking a sauce, an engineer designing something, the work is intentional, not accidental.
Yeah.
It lets you adapt intelligently. It lets you innovate safely.
That completely changes the game, doesn't it? From just like performing a task to genuinely mastering a craft. It's about being a thinking professional, a problem solver, not just someone going through the motions.
Okay, so we get why theory is so vital. But how do we actually teach it and learn it effectively? Because clearly, just reading a textbook and memorizing facts isn't quite hitting the mark right. That often feels like a chore. Definitely not just memorization. And that's a huge responsibility for instructors, for educators. The goal is not just to teach, but to reach, which means acknowledging that people learn in different ways. The source actually outlines this really well, those four main learning styles. And it gives strategies for each to help make the theory click. So you've got your visual learners. For them, you got to let them see it. Think diagrams, videos, color coding, watching demonstrations. Then they're auditory learners. It's about making sure you let them hear it. So lectures, discussions, maybe recording sessions they can replay, explaining things out loud. Kinesthetic learners, they need to let them touch it, get them moving, labeling things, manipulating tools, building models, maybe even tracing pathways, hands-on with the theory itself. And finally, reading, writing learners, you need to let them write it. Things like note-taking, summarizing using flashcards, journaling about concepts.
I love that framework because it underscores that the best classrooms are not one size fits all. They can't be. They need to be flexible, alive, and built for connection. That's where you bridge the gap between the abstract idea and the person trying to grasp it. So, beyond just heading those different learning styles, what else can instructors do? How do you make theory feel less dusty and more dynamic?
Great question. A big one is to constantly connect theory to real-life scenarios. Show exactly how this concept plays out on the job today, tomorrow, 10 years from now. Make it relevant. Also, use stories, anecdotes, case studies. They help people feel the why, makes it stick way better than just facts. And this is important. Reinforce progress. Acknowledge when someone gets it. Celebrate those little breakthroughs. It builds confidence and motivation.
Okay, that really highlights the instructor's role, making theory come alive. But what about the student, the learner? How can they take ownership? Especially if theory feels tough or, maybe a bit boring at first. How do they build that invisible scaffolding for themselves?
Yeah, the learner's role is huge too. The advice from the source is pretty direct. First, study with purpose. Don't just aim to pass the test. Aim to genuinely understand. Keep asking yourself, okay, how does this actually work? Why is this important? Second, ask deeper questions. Don't just accept the surface level. Be curious. Follow those threads. That's where the real insights happen. And maybe the biggest test of whether you've got it, teach someone else. If you can explain it clearly, simply, confidently, then yeah, you've probably mastered it.
That is such a good benchmark. Explaining it forces you to organize it in your own head, right? Not just repeat it. Which actually leads perfectly into this really powerful quote from Rodrick Samuels' upcoming book, The Silent Work. You have it there.
I do, yeah. Really brings it all together. He writes, I used to think the loudest thing in the room was my clippers, but I've learned it's not the sound of the tool, it's a silent knowing behind it. The confidence, the preparation, the theory, that's what sets you apart. That's what lasts when the crowd stops clapping.
Wow. The silent knowing. That phrase really hits home. What does that mean for, say, an entire industry? Or any field, really? When professionals operate with that kind of depth, that silent knowing, how does it change things overall?
It fundamentally elevates everything. It means the industry, as Samuels puts it, doesn't just need more stylists. It needs more prepared ones, more
Yeah.
thoughtful ones. It needs more professionals who care just as much about what they know as what they do. It's about raising the collective standard, moving beyond just function to true, thoughtful expertise. It builds trust across the board. It fosters a culture of real excellence.
So yeah, theory isn't the boring part you get through. It's the core, the hidden engine. And when you really invest in understanding it, the results aren't just better work. They speak for themselves, quietly but powerfully.
Exactly. And Samuels leaves us with this sort of call to action, which applies whether you're teaching, learning, or just out there doing your thing. Let's raise the standard. Let's teach with intention. Let's learn with heart. Because when education meets passion, the whole industry levels up.
That's a perfect place to pause. What a great exploration into why theory, that often unseen foundation, is so incredibly powerful, moving beyond just doing to truly understanding.
And it makes you think, doesn't it, about your own work, your own skills.
Mm.
What's the silent work, the foundational knowledge behind what you do every day or what you aspire to master?
Yeah, definitely. A final thought for you to maybe chew on. Think about something in your own life or work that seems basic or obvious. Some piece of theory you might have glossed over. What might happen if you dug a little deeper into understanding the why behind it? How could that deeper knowing make your actions truly intentional and maybe less accidental? Something to consider.